even try out when I did that well. I did it paperwork where I once I had it work, I see, I stayed in the time. Yeah. I stayed on the second floor. I stayed on the second floor. I think the first floor 200 years, but after that, it was a norm. We got pretty strict. Unless you had a certain grade point average, you were juniors. That's all for that.
I'm not up there. Come over here. Join video. Okay.
Get standing room only. So we're going to give it just a minute to let our last guest have a seat here, and then we'll kick it off. Okay, thank you so much for being here today. We have standing room only, except for the nice gentleman who brought out extra seats so that they wouldn't be standing for the next hour and a half. But thank you for devoting the next 90 minutes of your time to the Women's Commission. I like to call this 9th meeting. I can't believe it's been 9 meetings already. Of the Arkansas Women's Commission to order. This is also our last regional meeting. So we've had meetings in Fayetteville, Lake Village, Mountain Home, which is making sure there's no broken bones here, Mountain Home, Pine Bluff, Russellville, and last month we met in Jonesboro. Now we're here in Magnolia, and we couldn't be happier. Commissioners, it's just been such a warm welcome from eating at Christie's Mule Kick at Magnolia restaurant. Thank you for lunch earlier today. To the ambassadors who are here, to our pageant winners who are here and scholarship winners. So thank you so much, Cheryl, for everything you did to pull this together. At each of these stops, and I hope we'll hear it again today, we've heard from incredible women who have experienced and in most cases overcome some of the biggest challenges that a woman can face. And this is also to better the lives of themselves, of their families, of their communities. And we have seen that time and time again. And already we've seen it here in Magnolia. I have been both heartbroken and inspired in the span of a single meeting here in these in the Women's Commission. And it gives me hope that the work that we're doing with the Governor's Women's Commission over the last year will meet its intended goal of providing actionable results to the governor and the legislature for how to better the lives of women in Arkansas. So I first want to thank our host, President Trey Berry. Thank you so much for having us here. And I just want to give you an opportunity to say a few words if you like.
Well, welcome everybody to Southern Arkansas University, to Magnolia on a gorgeous, gorgeous day. I'll tell you, I wanted to come give you a welcome today, but I wanted to do more than that today. I wanted to take just a little time to tell you my personal interest in the work of the commission and the mission of the commission, but also SAU's interest in the commission and the work that you are doing. On a personal level, in another lifetime, I was a historian. Now, my wife would probably say that I still am, because every time we're on family vacations, let's stop, look at this historical marker. Let's look at this historical marker. But my master's thesis was actually on the history of women's higher education in the state of Mississippi. So I've had an interest in this for a very, very long time, especially because I'm old. So it has been a long, long time. Also at SAU, though, over the past 8 years, we have been astounded and so thankful to have the role of women in leadership roles at our university increase dramatically, from our faculty to department chairs and deans to the senior administration. And during that same 8 years, folks, number one, our enrollment has grown over 11%. Our endowment has doubled. Our processes and procedures have improved, and the energy and innovation on our campus has increased dramatically. Is there a correlation? You better believe it. There is no doubt. Having diversity of opinion and perspectives around the table, in the classrooms, and the offices has made us a healthier university and a place that all students want to find as home. The other day, I was driving through rural Arkansas, and I was listening to a podcast on leadership and diversity. And just point of clarification, Dr. Catherine Berry, I was listening to a podcast, not watching a podcast. And the introduction was so telling that I had to pull off the road and write a quote down that I'd heard in the introduction that I want to share with you all. And it really is something we believe here at SAU, and I think all of you believe. And this is what it said. It said, "We begin to understand our world by adding the views of others. And to those views, all of those views will take us to places we've never been before. By this, together, we change the world simply by the way we look at the world." So I hope you have a great time today. You're going to have a wonderful time. We're so glad you came to South Arkansas. Yes, the hospitality is good here. Absolutely. And so we hope you have a tremendous day. You've got a great, great group of speakers here that are going to make us all proud. So thank you so much. Glad you're here.
Thank you, President Berry. He mentioned Dr. Berry as well. I just want to say thank you for everything you've done. I know you're on the board of the Women's Commission, our Women's Foundation, which has been essential in the creation of this. So thank you for everything you've done today too. And Nija, a graduate of SAU, we're just delighted that you're on the commission and that you're here today as well. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into just a few minutes of kind of commission business, and then we'll move into our speakers and the focus group. So commissioners, draft meetings for our last meeting were sent to you for review over the weekend and again a couple of weeks ago. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes from our last meeting on September 14th. Thank you, Dr. Salazar. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Morrow. Without objection, the minutes from the September 14th meeting are adopted. Commissioners, do we have any other old business for discussion? All right, hearing none, we're going to move into the reports. So at this time, I'd like to invite representatives from each of our subcommittees to briefly update the commission on their work since the last meeting. Just for the audience, we have a due date of December 1st to get a report to the governor and the General Assembly. And so what you provide to us today in terms of your experience and the stories that you share with us will actually inform that report. But most of the subcommittees have also been doing, well, all of them have been doing research over the last 9 months, either talking to other experts or reading materials. And so their subcommittee reports were due to me a couple of weeks ago. So what you hear today may be kind of like, well, we're done with our work, which they generally are, except to listen to y'all. But with that, Dr. Jones Branch, I invite you for Research and Writing Subcommittee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is going to be very brief right now. The report is in the process of being revised. We're going through the report. I'm doing things like checking for spelling, grammar, that kind of thing. Chancellor Schultz is working on condensing the report and gathering in the information for that. We need to go ahead and get that done so that we can get it ready to go to the graphic designers. And I believe, Allison, you sent out some thoughts and comments from the focus groups and from the online surveys, and folks need to get back to you if there was anything in there that resonates with them about that. Dr. Shields, did I cover everything? Is there anything that you'd like to add?
His picture says he's good to go.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's all I've got to report.
But Commissioners, Dr. Jones Branch is correct. In your pack in front of you is a select number of comments that we received via the online survey or via comments in these meetings. And I invite you to take a look at those. The full set of comments are available to you if you'd like to look at them. As you can see, they're pretty voluminous, even just on the select ones, but welcome you to take a look at that and let me know if you'd like to see the full set. But Dr. Jones Branch, I wonder, I see you wearing Magnolia color, SAU colors. Are you pandering today, or is there some reason for that?
They're not Magnolia colors. They're actually Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated colors. And I am working and resting from home today.
Very good. What coincidence then? Well, you're in good company here. Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to the subcommittee on barriers to entry and retention. Dr. White-Lloyd, do you have something to add?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. Well, we are happy to report as a committee that we submitted our report a few weeks ago. We've had minor revisions. We have submitted some extra material. And as far as we know, we have been accepted. We are fortunate to have Tamika that is on the Research and Writing Committee and also on our committee. So she helps speed us along. So we are hopeful and optimistic that we have completed our work and look forward to seeing the completed report.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Salazar, you're going to give the report for COVID-19?
Okay, so finally got this in. It was very challenging to kind of overlap with everything that we were doing, right? So we decided to kind of just summarize that and see how it was completed in a pattern. The hero's capabilities and the workforce challenges as well as the community with COVID-19, and then the rest of violence so like in that. So we submitted it. We're waiting for the next one. Oh, sorry.
Just holding on to mine for dear life. I will make sure, Commissioners, you'll get a microphone when you speak. Gayatri, do you want to give the report on family caregiving?
Yeah, thanks so much, Allison. So the subcommittee on family caregiving, like the others, although perhaps a bit more delinquent than the others, did finally submit our report to Allison and for the commission's consideration. Not a surprise to anyone, the state of caregiving in Arkansas is complex. The state of childcare in Arkansas is complex. It took our committee quite some time to get through findings and recommendations, and we ended up breaking down an action by workforce and really drilling into some of the challenges that our childcare providers are seeing on not just providing care to families, but the specific workforce shortages they're facing in their efforts to provide care to families. The three areas, and I mentioned one of these in the last commission, but I'll bring them up again. The three areas where I would say our subcommittee's ability to conclude substantive findings are lacking due to the complexity of the issues. One is in how to address affordability. So we have a lot of wonderful recommendations in there, but the actual affordability to families paying full cost and ineligible for any government subsidy for childcare is limited. We're still working on some recommendations. So if anyone has creative ideas, I welcome them. And then the other two areas are, as requested by the commission at the launch of this effort, was a request to dig into disability services and disability care and elder care. And while we do acknowledge the importance of non-child care, so the other aspects of family care, there's not extensive research on it in the report due to constraints around time and complexity of topic. But we have submitted and are thrilled to partner with everyone on the commission to make sure the report is finalized in a way that's satisfactory to all members of the commission. So Allison, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you very much. Okay, just a few updates from me. So we've talked a lot about the reports being submitted, the subcommittee reports. So we are working through those. I also want to highlight that there were more than 400 women who completed the telephone survey that the University of Arkansas through the Women's Foundation conducted. And so that we get some really rich information. And I know Dr. Schultz, as he works through those, will be giving us more information from that. So thank you to the University of Arkansas and now A-State, and to our survey moderator who conducted that. We're going to leave the online survey, which has had about 90 responses to come in so far. We're going to leave that active until October 31st. We'll talk more about this as well for the audience. We'll talk about that a little bit later today. Our subcommittees have provided excellent recommendations based on their research. And my goal is to identify what I'm calling sponsors for a handful of recommendations. We've talked about this in the commission. I really want these recommendations in this commission to live on in some fashion. And the only way that I can control any part of that is to find people who are going to carry on the work in our absence. So we're looking for sponsors. Certainly, as you look through the recommendations or thoughts from the women that we have collected, if there's someone that you know, an organization or a business that you think is already doing work similar to this or might want to take it on as a new project, I welcome them. I'd like to highlight them in our December meeting when we actually hand off the report. So, and on that note, our next meeting of the commission will be November 15th in Little Rock. And I'm excited to inform everyone that we've set the date for delivering that report to the governor. So we're going to be delivering our report on December 7th in Little Rock. We think that's probably going to be a morning press conference, maybe 10 or 11 o'clock. And then we're working with Arkansas State University and their space across the street from the Capitol to actually host what we hope will be a luncheon event where we can highlight the recommendations and some of these sponsors that we hope to get. So if you'll mark your calendars for that as a save the date, and I'll share more details as that's confirmed. Okay, that was it. That was all the business that we had to do for the commission. And now we get to move on to the really fun part. And the first part of that is to welcome our three guest speakers. So Christy Way and Shawana Reed and Allison Schultz, which is an easy name for me to remember. Each of these women have experience overcoming a number of challenges, as many of us do. But what they want to talk about today is the power of education and overcoming those obstacles. So without further ado, Ms. Reed, I'm going to invite you to come up first and share your story. Thank you. Let me do a little better than that because I have a bio for you that I asked you to give me. And so let me just make sure I give you a proper introduction. So she is the Vice President for Finance here at SAU. She's a South Arkansas native, originally from Nashville. She graduated SAU where she obtained both her bachelor's and master's degrees in business. She loves learning and has eventual goals to take classes towards a Doctor of Business Administration degree and even a Spanish degree. That's a lot. That's impressive. She has an 18-year professional background in higher education, and as I mentioned, serves as the Vice President for Finance here at SAU. She loves being outdoors and traveling with her family, and she has 2 dogs and 2 cats. Welcome.
Thank you for that welcome. So roadblocks and barriers to the life and careers of women. That's a great topic. So thank you guys for participating in this discussion and look forward to have the impact that's going to have on the state of Arkansas. So like she said, I'm an education person. For the past 18 years, I've been in higher ed. I love learning. I think if I did not have to have a job, I would be a professional student. So that's what I would do. So I think it would be only fitting to discuss education and the things that I've experienced. Starting back in high school, in high school, I did really well. And I was extended some unique opportunities, some of which I realized that some of my school classmates did not have those opportunities. So I'm very fortunate to have those. But one of which was to join the Association of Black Engineers in Arkansas, which is odd because I'm a finance officer now. But I was extended that opportunity because of the scores in math and science. Great opportunity. A person in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade was selected, and scholarship opportunities were available. However, none of us finished that program because we couldn't make it to Little Rock on a monthly basis. So each of those three people eventually had to drop out of the program because of the location. So the opportunities were there, but the resources were not. So that's one of the obstacles that we had, not just me, but also my classmates. So after withdrawing from the program, I officially scratched engineer off of my career prospects, and I'm glad that I did. But I asked myself, would I be able to afford the program without a scholarship? The answer is probably not. Where would I go to get the college degree? Well, if I couldn't make it to Little Rock on a regular basis, chances are I wouldn't be able to travel to the college to get that engineering degree. So I'm still thankful. That was a long time ago. So I'm both thankful that SAU is here and it's a regional university. They offer engineering and a lot of other programs. So location matters, resources matter, and those things do limit high school opportunities for those students. I'm very thankful that SAU serves this region really well. Another opportunity that was extended to me was courtesy of a local business. They wanted to offer a financial incentive to those who are at risk of dropping out of high school. So the high school counselor crunched those numbers of those who are less likely to succeed, and he grabbed a bunch of those students and brought them into his counselor's office, and I was one of those students. So in that group, I remember being really confused because he basically said, y'all are less likely to succeed. I'm like, but I'm a good student. I don't understand. Nobody told me that I wasn't supposed to be successful. And that's the thing. Nobody told me that I wasn't supposed to be successful. I was fortunate enough to have encouragement in the home, but that's not the case with so many students across Arkansas. In some homes, study habits aren't promoted. Learning isn't a priority. Students struggle because they're constantly behind their peers. When they start failing courses, the pressure to drop out gets greater and greater. So programs like that are absolutely inspiring, absolutely helpful. But in fact, some of those students still didn't graduate high school. So I wonder what could have helped those students, maybe some personal one-on-one communication with them, some more accountability to make sure they stay on top of their studies. So many things, mentorship obviously would be great. And I know one-on-one mentorship can be trouble with logistically speaking, but who says it has to be face-to-face? It could be virtual. Virtual forums that extend to our high school students or college students, young adults, is definitely an opportunity that we should be considering. And finally, something that I did reach out to my ladies in my office, and I just wanted to see what the issues that they were facing. And they spoke of the lack of college and career preparation. They knew that some college would help them work in less physically demanding roles with possibly higher pay, but they had no clue how to get there. Some had parents to help, and some first generation folks like me relied on spouses and friends, not spouses, siblings and friends to kind of guide them through that process. But what happens when you don't have those people to hold your hand to go through that process? It can be very intimidating. And when they don't have it, some students just don't do anything at all. And so the college going rate is a very troubling matter that I think is having an effect on our economy, just because the students don't have that support and that mentorship to know what to do next after they graduate. So there's so many things that I could to talk about in education and the barriers that we all face. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. So next we'll hear from Christy Way, who's an entrepreneur, and probably many of you know the owner of Mule Kick Restaurants. She is a lifelong Arkansan who has a passion for helping her employees develop personally and professionally. We heard about your reading lists earlier today, Christy. Being raised in a household with 2 teachers, education was always important. Ms. Way graduated from Southern Arkansas University with a degree in ag business and has gone on to create 5 different companies, of which she is the sole owner. And with over 80 employees employed by those companies, she strives to pass her love of education, both traditional and unconventional, on to all of her employees. She was one of the 50 most intriguing women in Arkansas in 2021. And although her flagship location of Mule Kick in Magnolia has not been open for decades, it has won more awards than businesses that have. We now know why. She will either single-handedly or with help change the perception of the hospitality industry in South Arkansas, while making sure that the state she calls home knows that South doesn't just mean hot springs. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Kay Berry and Cheryl, for asking me to come today. I think I took a little different slant on what I was asked to speak about than previous speaker. So you're going to get some different views of things. We're going to talk a little bit on the gap in gender pay. So all agree that the gap in gender pay is real, but the reasons are not as widely agreed upon, and neither is the solution. A few facts about the gender pay gap. If it continues to close at historical rates, the average female pay in Arkansas will equal that of males in 2082. For Louisiana, it's 2115. And the opportunities in Southwest Arkansas are much more like that of Northern Louisiana than the rest of the state. The greater the level of education in females, the lower the gap. And there are several reasons why it is good for society to want to close that gap. It has been studied that when men have disposable income, they use it on things like electronics, alcohol, gambling, and sports. In other words, toys. When women have disposable income and they increase that, it leads to societal change because they spend that extra income on children and childcare. Iceland is ranked #1 as the country with the smallest difference in rate of pay between men and women. But before you jump ship and go there, know that the individual income tax rate is 46.9. So there are some gives and takes. The United States, by the way, did not make the top 10 in nations in the world in terms of equal pay for equal work. There is an individual solution, I think, for that which is a global problem. The fastest way to solve any problem is with the lowest hanging fruit, of which we women are a part. We as females in the workforce must change our mindset to change the way we seek solutions. In kindergarten, we ask children what they want to be when they grow up. The state of Arkansas even has a symposium to talk to 8th graders about industry leaders. When we give graduation gifts, we say, "What college are you going to?" And when they graduate, we say, "What are you going to do?" But do we teach them how to increase their chances of success? Do we have longer conversations than, "Hey, little Susie, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I'm afraid the answer leans more towards the negative. Could proactive measures be taken and have classes in school to teach them how to individually define and achieve success by visualizing their career in terms of what career paths they might enjoy, what benefits that path has, what drawbacks and what sacrifices they are willing to make to have that career? Each of these is a step towards success. They do not have to achieve this in a silo, however. Others that have walked that road before, we will be here to help. How does visualizing work? So professional athletes, which by the way are 86% male, are taught to visualize themselves hitting the target or making the field goal. Never, ever, ever do they visualize themselves not doing so. One difference in women that are successful and those that aren't is that the successful ones can see themselves getting their PhD, starting a business, or changing their lifestyle. They don't just set goals, they act. Because a goal without an action associated is a dream, but an action that is based on a well thought out plan can help its owner achieve success. Forbes put out a report a few years ago with 8 proven factors that predict future success. And a few of them are the ability to delay gratification. Don't pick up the cell phone when it buzzes. In fact, even turn it off. Number 2 would be believe that you are a participant in how your life turns out. You have the capacity to choose your actions and your beliefs. Be open to be around people that are not carbon copies of yourself. The bigger your variety of peers, the higher your chances of success. Read, because readers become leaders. Libraries are free. Cell phones give almost unlimited access to information. We should probably use it for something other than TikTok. Past successes. Set yourself up for small wins, because this is an indicator of your future success. Now, I love history. It's what I read when my brain needs to take a break. However, what a class that teaches both boys and girls to have a positive outlook on life, how to make plans, see the steps to work that plan, and how to adapt when the plan goes sideways, because it will, be just as needed as learning the history of past wars. When asked to speak today, the request was made to pick an action that I believed had led to, thus far, me being able to sustain a successful presence in local business and that is replicable. So this is what I came up with. I believe that I can be successful. Each day, I visualize what that success looks like. I work towards a goal that sounds unattainable to everyone else, and I have a bias towards action. I encourage the commission to look ahead and see what a successful outcome looks like for you, and then take the action of advocating for policies that will help future generations of Arkansans, especially girls and women, to be surrounded by an environment that encourages defining, visualizing, and working towards success at an ever earlier age. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Way. Allison, you've got a bit of a couple of acts to follow there. Those are both very inspiring stories. So we'll hear now from Ms. Allison Schultz, the president and CEO of Southern Aluminum.
I've never regretted being last so much in my life.
You're going to be great. I hear great things about you.
What a great group of women. Look around. If you haven't looked, those on the front row, what a tremendous power in South Arkansas we have, and what great attendance to show up for your commission. And we thank you for representing all women by taking the last year of your lives to participate in this very important work. We're very grateful. Very, very grateful. When asked to speak about barriers in the workplace and related to education, my story is going to be a little different, a reverse approach on education, if you will. I grew up in a family with many, many rules, but not a lot of barriers. When I was 6, I told my dad that I wanted to be a professional football player for the Dallas Cowboys. And I wanted to marry their superstar, number 22, Bobby Hayes. My dad replied, "Allison, you can be anything you want to be, but you have to grow up before you get married. So in 1968, my father told me I could be anything I wanted to be, including a professional football player. Not an answer most little girls get. In 1968, my father also told me that I could marry an African-American man, Bobby Hayes. Not an answer most little Caucasian girls get. So I knew then that I was in a different place than many little girls in 1968. I also had incredibly strong women in my family. My mother was a redhead. I used to be also fiery, bossy, and made us, color within the lines, yet we were allowed to stretch. My sister was tough. I didn't have any aunts or uncles, but I had some great aunts that lived through the Depression. And you want to talk about women that could get things done, you better believe it. So I had lots of positive influences, female influences in my life. But what I want to talk about today that I think was really key are what I call my hidden mentors. These were women in my life who invited me to join women's groups. They encouraged me to participate in industry associations, serve on nonprofit boards, to spread my wings, step out of my comfort zone, and really push myself to be the very best me. My hidden mentors were everywhere, in places I would least suspect. They worked to help me and never told me what they were doing or who they were. I'm 60 years old now. I consider myself mildly intelligent, but I only recently, in the past, say 4 or 5 years, realized what was going on around me with these mentors. They were very secretive. They helped me build my confidence. They made me treat myself like I could be anything, as my dad had done so many years ago. And it was all regardless of my gender. I was fortunate in my career to work for companies that were not prejudiced to women being successful. Perhaps I subconsciously sought out those companies, but I would like to think that I contributed to those companies being equal opportunity for everyone. And I tell all this to explain that I don't think I really ever incurred barriers, but roadblocks. And I look at roadblocks. Barriers stop you, right? You crash into the wall. Roadblocks slow you down so that you can take the time to learn and grow and become stronger and figure out how to maneuver around those roadblocks. It's important to be a mentee, as I was, to receive mentorship, but it's also important for us to pay it forward from the very beginning and be a mentor to your coworkers, to women and young girls in the community, to ladies you work alongside in church or service organizations, your children's sports leagues. The opportunity to learn and to teach as well is all around us every day. It's important to realize that while women are setting positive examples for you, that you are oftentimes setting examples for them. So my address to education is through mentorship from both receiving and giving to other women and girls in the community. Thank you for your work.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Shawana. Thank you, Christy, for sharing your stories today and your perspective. Commissioners, do we have any questions for any of the speakers? We just all in awe like I am. Yeah. Beverly, here.
I'm sorry. First, thank you so much for your stories. But I do have a question, Shawana. When they brought you into the room to tell you that you weren't going to be successful, what were you supposed to do, or what was said further?
Well, it wasn't explained very well. They just explained that it was part of a statistical program and that I fell within that boundaries and that statistically we would not be successful. And it's very shocking, especially since there were so many in the group that were really striving, and to hear that was actually a disincentive to keep trying.
And just one other thing, Allison, I like roadblocks versus barriers, so I'm gonna take that with me. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, I went into Christy. You are my focus right now. I heard something from you I almost never hear anybody say to young people or to women, almost anybody who's going to a career. You said something about and finding something they enjoy, something that brings you joy, where normally we just talk about something that's going to bring you, enough money so you can live comfortably and that kind of thing. Why do you think that's so important? Why do you think we tend to miss that when we're talking, especially to young people, about the joy? And while you're at it, and anybody else who wants to comment on this, is I think we have set ourselves up. One of the reasons we don't get to the joy thing, I think we've set ourselves up for a fight between career ed and higher ed that is totally unnecessary. Because we need both of those. And I'm just wondering if some of the joy is just drained out of it when we set up this fight as well.
Well, to the first part of that, joy. One of the things that I talked about was that the earlier they can define what success means to them. And I think that the trap that you were talking about that we fall into is taking someone else's version of success and trying to wear it. So, yeah. So finding something that you can enjoy, I think very much equals that success. And that we don't have to relate, that doesn't have to equal big dollar signs. I think that there's a lot of us in the field that we have chosen that we could have definitely gone into something else and my bank account have been bigger, but I might not be as happy as I am doing what I'm doing.
Any other questions? Online commissioners, any questions for our speakers?
I have one.
Great. Oh, hi.
Hey, for the owner, hi, for the owner of the Mule Kick, which I'm disappointed I didn't get to be there to eat at today. It sounded marvelous. One of the things we're hearing from Chamber of Commerce and other businesses is the difficulty of people being trained to start in the work world. Can you share any of that, any of your thoughts on that?
We'll try to keep this brief. Yes, so I think there's several different points of entry into the work world, and we help with their initial phase. Very seldom am I like somebody's final destination to go to. I mean, I'm my final destination, but not many of my employees for their work life. Very often I'm the very first one. But what we try to do at Mule Kick, and part of our business model, is that we try to prepare them for that next step. So we enjoy a good partnership with SAU and work to take those students that want to enter into a corporate work world and inundate them in the safety of a pizza place to learn those steps of teamwork and leadership. Getting people into the workforce and getting them trained hasn't been easier the last couple of years, but we are working in a pilot program with the adult education in Union County and here in Columbia County to work through the Wage 1 and Wage 2 certification program. My front of house will all be required to go through the Wage 1, which is standard for the state. And then Wage 2 will be specifically designed around my front of house manual, any of our training, all of our onboarding. They will create tests for our menus, and that way they actually take on a significant portion of our onboarding and pre-work training so that they are more ready to be successful, because an employee that has an idea of what their expectations are much more comfortable in the workforce.
Thank you.
So I was listening to your stories, right? Especially Shawana, Ms. Reed, and I think I can identify with you. You all were talking pretty much about mentorship, right? And the importance of it. What are some of the mentors? And I guess, will the gender of your mentors matter? Because for me, I was always looking for that Hispanic female mentor at the University of Arkansas. I couldn't find him. I found the African-American male who embraced me and then introduced me to the African-American female because she could relate much more to me from the female perspective, right? Like, but we needed those champions in our lives, right? Because we know that males are sitting at the table and the few of us are, but we needed those males. So who were your mentors growing up?
I'll start. I think we can all answer that question. My mentor was my mom. She worked really hard. I saw her struggle as a single parent, and she wanted more opportunities for us. So I really wanted to take advantage of every opportunity that was given to me. So that's kind of one of the things that we had. Also, there were teachers in high school that encouraged us to step out of our comfort zone. There was one teacher in particular that said, won't you run for president of FBLA? That was never on my things to do. But that's something that I did because of her encouragement. And then college, there were some college professors that reached out to us to make sure that we were staying on top of our studies. Dr. Kathleen Mallory recently was honored here, and she was a very special part of my life. So there's been so many throughout so many different areas and stages of my life. And I just look forward to repaying that also to the young ladies that are coming up that work in my office, and then also the students here at SAU.
Well, I'm going to echo that sentiment. My mom, she taught for 42 years, said she never graduated 6th grade. She kept having to teach those 6th graders over and over again. But I think what she did was set expectations, and she started very early teaching that aspect of visualizing, starting with spelling tests. So I had to sit in the dining room and spell to her. And then when I made a mistake and I didn't spell it correctly, I'd say, oh, Mom, I thought it was, and before I could ever get that out of my mouth, she would say, no, don't say it wrong because you'll remember it wrong. Say it right, write it right, write it correctly. And so, some people were country when country wasn't cool. I was visualizing before it became the popular phrase for everything. I would say my FFA instructor in high school, I ran for and was elected the first FFA female president in Southwest Arkansas a few years ago, and encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to in a field that was still then primarily male. And then it was a professor here at SAU, Dr. Corbett Lampkin. With him, I did a cotton research module and went to the National Cotton Council and gave a presentation. And I was the only female in the room And I was younger than any of the other people by probably 35 years. So I was extremely intimidated, but Dr. Lampkin was like, you can do it. Just get up there and tell them what you know. So I didn't have any idea that I shouldn't be able to do that.
Well, and Allison, you talked about your father and you talked about the hidden mentors. Are there other external, more traditional mentors that come to your mind?
I mean, I think I had the traditional mentors of the high school, you know, the handful of high school teachers who took an interest in me, but I was not a focused student, if you will. I wasn't a bad student, but I could make B's without trying. And so I wasn't focused. So that's why these hidden mentors were so important to me, because they were mentoring me without me realizing it. So, you know, if you're out there with no boundaries and no sidelines, you need to be helping these girls, funneling them so that they, you know, you don't have to stay within the traditional lines, but just so we don't wander off. I don't know where I would have wandered without these women, as you said, reaching out to me to check on me. Same in college. So that's why it's so very important. If you're shy, don't be afraid to reach out and help other women. They may be too afraid to ask, or I didn't even know to ask. I was just, you know, marching to my own tune. So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories, and commissioners, thank you for your questions. We got some good extra work there. I want to turn now to really where we'll spend the rest of this meeting, and that is in the focus group and talking to everyone in the room, including y'all back here. I've talked to y'all already about how much I want to hear from you too. So commissioners, I apologize. I may have my back to you for a little bit, but I'm going to turn my attention to our VIPs here. First, let me just, I meant to say this at the beginning. So for everyone, you can see the screens on the wall, obviously, but I want to remind our guests and our participants that this meeting is open to the public. So anyone who wandered by could come in today. We're glad you're here, but this means that we also make it as accessible as possible for folks online. So it is being live streamed via YouTube, and it will be archived on our website, women.arkansas.gov. That's also where you can find the online survey that I mentioned earlier. It's a pretty easy website to navigate, women.arkansas.gov, and then it just says take the survey. So you can certainly answer questions that I'm going to have for y'all here today, or if you prefer, or something occurs to you later, you can always go online and submit your answer then. So, and also we've kind of gone through this, but I just ask when you're speaking, please make sure that you have a microphone. It makes it easier for our folks on the interwebs to hear you, but also just makes it easier for us to capture your comments as well when we go back through our video to capture the minutes. So with that, Jeremy, I'm going to ask you to put up that slide of those questions. I'm just going to ask a few things. This is just for guidance. Most of the time we get off to a little bit of a slow start in these meetings, and then we just zoom right up to the end. And so we're going to use this as a little bit of a framework, but we can talk about anything and anywhere this conversation goes. I am asking that you use I statements when you talk about your experiences. We want to know what your personal experience is. That gives us a richer context for what you're experiencing. Also make sure that we're not having folks talk for others. So please share your experiences and share your personal ones. So let's get going. So we've heard about some barriers that Christy and Shawana and Allison have faced. I know they're probably replicated many, many times over in this room by everyone. But as you think about the barriers that you faced in your life, whether it's in business and career and finances, or in family and childcare and relationships in general, or maybe it's your health, whether that's physical, mental health, your medical well-being, maybe social, spiritual, your personal safety, or maybe it's in education, development, and personal growth. So you think about what barriers you faced in your life, going back to when you were a child, or maybe you just experienced something this morning. I got lost today. That was the challenge. I don't think it was gendered, but maybe, I don't know, Siri sometimes is she gets a little funny. But who wants to open up with a barrier that you faced and your experience in facing it? I will call people by name. That's why y'all have nameplates. Sharon. Sharon has been here all day today getting us ready for this. And I just want to First, thank you for being here and for your help. But you worked at SU for a long time, so you've been in this community for a long time. What barriers have you faced?
You caught me on the spot.
I'll do it to
I
everybody.
guess my barrier would go back to as a parent. My child, my son, who's 46 years old now, I can remember a teacher, principal, superintendent, calling me in the office to talk to me about my child and said that if I didn't have my child to cut ties with another student, that my child wouldn't amount to anything. And that was based on, my child was in a two-parent household. The other young man was a single parent, came from a single household with a mother, and she had several children. And I always remember this to this day, that young man that she told me that my son should not associate with for fear that my son would amount to not much like she thought this young man would. Both of them are very successful, but the young man that was labeled went to mortuary school, graduated, went through the process, and he now owns a funeral home in the state of Texas. And that taught me, I was in my 30s during that time. I'm 30 years later now, but that stuck with me, that the judging and not knowing and not giving the opportunity. Just, I don't know, I grew from that. I grew from that and learned that you cannot judge a book by the cover. You have to open it up and read the pages.
Thank you for sharing that. Who else has had experience being judged in a way that limited your opportunities or limited what you expected of yourself? Yes, Ms. Sharp.
The job that I have now was offered to me, and the person, it was a male that had the job before I did. And so he implicated in so many ways that I would not be able to handle the job. Of course, the jobs I've had in the past was all female women, and we kind of, so that kind of put me in a state that, well, and where the job is kind of made me think also that maybe I can't, But it was the board person said that, Ruthie, you can do it. That's not for me. I can't do it. And I was listening to this guy say that I couldn't do it. But anyway, I was start knocking down things myself, put myself out of the position because, look, I am a female and excuse me, I'm so sorry. My phone's ringing. It never rings.
Ask them to join us. Ask them to join us.
But anyway, I kept telling, I can't, there's all these reasons why I can't do it. I'm a female and a male had this and he know what's going on. He know how to handle it. So, and the person that wanted to hire me said, you can do it. You can do it. So I said, well, okay. And I tried everything to say it wasn't going to happen. I was comfortable in knowing it wasn't going to happen. So I got hired. After all that was being said and done, I got hired for the position. And the women that I had worked with in the past, they had their jobs and they worked, and I worked with them. It was just awesome. And I love what I did with them and how I worked. And all for the last job I had, the female was my director, my boss and everything. And I worked there for 25 years. So I'm definitely working for women, not for men. So anyway, they hired me and I've been on this job for 12 years and I love it.
So not to listen to what a lot of men might say what you can't do. You know, it just, you have to try it for yourself. You got to really want, you got to really like in spite of what somebody say you can't do. You got to put that in you yourself too. But I'm not saying all of it. You got to test of it, some of it, what you can do and what you can do. And ease yourself in there to the point, what if I don't like it, I still have something.
You don't strike me as someone who just eases into anything.
Well, you know, the place where I come from, I have always worked with people with special needs, and that was just a heart of mine. You know, but they were totally somewhat dependent. I mean, basically dependent on somebody else carrying them in many directions. Versus coming into a place where I really don't need your help. I can, okay, so I'm a little afraid, little. Where I work is now at Southern Christian Mission Homeless Shelter. And the people that are basically come in, they're men, and they really, really was hard to handle. Let me to believe they was hard to handle. So that kind of hit me back a little bit. But I'm a mother of 5 children, 3
You've
girls.
handled worse, harder challenges.
3 girls and 2 boys. And I started raising them for my baby. My oldest child was 8. I was left with that responsibility. They all graduated high school. I'm a very respected mother. I got this job that I'm on now. I agree with what you said. I'm a very respected boss.
I have no doubt about that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for
And
sharing.
I did, that's a barrier that I had to break.
Yeah.
In order to get to where I am today, and I am very thankful for that.
Well, that brings up a good point. So who has been told before that they probably shouldn't try something or shouldn't do something or, yeah. Okay. You want to share your story? Yes.
I really don't.
It'll help with the tech side.
I was thinking, Senator, when you asked your question earlier, it reminded me of, kind of going down traditional paths or non-traditional paths. So college was very, very pushed when I was in school, and more so now, thankfully, there's also to go a non-traditional path as well, both. So it was always just that I was going to go to college, and I did here at Southern Arkansas University, SAU, and I got my degree in management and marketing. But I was a little lost before that, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And my dad actually came to me and said, you really seem to love the business that we're in, which is a salon and spa. Have you thought about going to cosmetology school? And I said, I never, ever thought about going that because I thought like college was all that I could do. And I never thought about doing both. And I'm so thankful that I did do both. And that goes back to what we talked about, joy. And so I have a lot of joy in what I do. And I love both sides of it. I love the salon and spa side of it, but I also love running the business side. And all that we've talked about, mentorship, I have found very recently that mentorship, discipleship, that is just so important. And I'm very thankful for those that have mentored me throughout my path. Now we've been open 19 years, a salon and spa here in town, Serenity, right down the road from SAU. And, but finding my joy, I love to do that. I love to go to work. And just recently we got to go on 2 great trips through our business, and people come up to me and say, you've just been vacationing. I just see you vacationing. And I'm like, actually, those were work trips. And I was like, it's really not my fault that you chose a career that is boring. Like, we're working hard and enjoy doing it. And, we went to Los Angeles a couple of months ago and got to go to New York and had the opportunity to go to an academy there for training. And so I encourage the women who, a lot of women said in my office during interviews, and they've been told, that they were not told, don't go to esthetician school, don't go to cosmetology school, or, you need to only go to college. And a lot of them have ended up doing both. And, I encourage them, to do that. And I love walking alongside of them during their career, even if that doesn't end, it goes further than Serenity, to be able to be a small part of that, and to see them succeed, is very rewarding.
Thank you. So do it all. That's what I'm hearing. I saw a few other hands back here, folks that have been told they can't do something or shouldn't try something. Oh, now we're shy.
But
Come on,
I'm going
y'all.
to add, but if my
Yeah.
dad had not told me that it was okay, I don't know that I ever, and I have to tell you, I really liked, dude. I also told my dad when I was about 6 years old that I wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys. And I never knew I couldn't do anything. I never knew that nothing was possible. Like, if you saw me kind of giggle when you said that, and you're probably never thinking what I do now, that was like what I loved. And I loved Emmitt Smith. He was my man, still is.
Jeremy, can I get you to hand it to Miss Park here in the black top?
I have a story of a no, but it doesn't matter. I never let it stop me. So I hope none of y'all ever let the words no, you cannot do this, ever hinder. It may slow you down. It may be a roadblock, but it's not going to be a barrier for you. But what I would like to talk about are the barriers that are out there that are real for our workforce women, our young mothers. I am in healthcare. I employ 164 full-time employees. 96% of them are women. And I see their struggle every day, and I advocate for their struggle every day. So for the commission, I'm so excited about this because you're recognizing that. But what I also have the opportunity to witness is their desire to do more, to be more, to not be told no. But the avenues getting there, they're not available for continuing education. When you are a single mother, most of them are single mothers taking care of their children, working not just the job with us, but somewhere else so they can provide. It is very difficult for them to see the avenue with a green light. They see red lights. And I'm one person, and there are many others out there that do encourage, but I just encourage all of you to always say, yes, you can. And this is, if it means us being in the positions we're in, helping them find that avenue, to take the time to research what is available out there for them to continue their education. Of course, I'm in healthcare, so I'm going to speak about healthcare, to be a nurse, whatever their situation may be or desire to be. But sometimes they need people like us to help them find the avenue to get to where they want to be. So yes, I mean, my life wasn't easy. No one paid for my college, and I'm go SAU. My kids graduated SAU. I'm all about the blue and gold, but I think for us, it is important for us to remember that we help those other ones that have that motivation and that desire, that we are advocating for them, fiercely advocating for them, to show them that there is a way to improve and do better if that's what their desire is. So thank you.
Well, hold on to that, Mike, because I have a follow-up question for you. So we hear about the challenges of childcare in general. And depending on what part of the state we're in, it's either in the quality or transportation to it or affordability, you know, it runs a gamut. But you're in a position where you have 96% of your workforce, many of them single mothers. What would you advocate for them? What do they tell you they need in terms of childcare that we can then propose as answers to that very challenging question?
The availability of something they can afford. There are people in this room right now that could tell you that I have allowed my staff to bring their children to work because there are no other options for them. Yes, there are grandmothers, or it's a workforce for everyone. Most everybody has jobs, so they are limited. You know, I always had the opinion, well, why not daycare? That's what I did. But I was in a different situation than they are, and they are forced making choices to rent daycare or food, whatever it may be. But I think the affordability, the availability in the area of wherever they're at, and maybe it's there and they don't know that. Maybe Columbia County has that and I'm not aware of it. I do know through Department of Human Services, there's availability there. But these girls work, it's a round the clock healthcare. Okay. It's 3 to 11, it's 11 to 7, it's 7 to 3. It's not just a day shift situation. So those extended hours, I think, are very important for a lot of population out there of women that are single mothers. Thank you. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Childcare, it's open, you're CNA, that's not a high rate of pay.
Yep.
And, you know, they're sitting for families with elderly parents after they work 9 hours. They're working 16 hours a day.
They will work as much as they can.
Yeah.
So they're not able to come to a conference like this and speak.
That's right. I think as we think through, you know, if this commission gets extended in some way, what would be the recommendations? And that is one of the things that I've thought about, is doing something that's after, you know, we try to do it over lunch, but that's not always the most convenient for everybody. But having meetings in the evenings that allow maybe a little more flexibility. If you can't attend one, you can maybe get to another one. So thank you for pointing that out. Ms. Gaylord. Thank you.
I owned and operated a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week daycare for years.
Wow.
There is a great need for the mothers who work the odd hours, the 3 to 11, the 11 to 7 hours. The need is still very, very great. DHS, every time I see one of the caseworkers from DHS, it's Ms. Gaylord, we need you, you know. So I don't know, maybe I was crazy to do it. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't know anybody else in this area who's willing to do something like that. But it is a great need for Columbia County.
And do you still run that daycare?
No, ma'am.
Can you talk about why you don't? Would you talk about why you don't?
Well, I retired from, I was administrative
At 40?
assistant at the adult at the Adult Education Center. I did that for 26 years. And I had employees that worked for me. I did all of the after hours, like the Saturdays. And I didn't open on Sundays until midnight on Sunday night. And I closed midnight Saturday night. But I did the after hours, I did the holidays myself. But I retired early and closed the daycare down because I had to become a caregiver for my mother. So I know that there's a need there for that in Columbia County.
Yeah.
Yeah, very great need for it.
Thank you for sharing that. What about in some of the aspects of, you know, either relationships that you have with family or with partners, or about just personal safety? We hear a lot, and particularly in the urban areas, you know, about being a woman and being out at night and how that puts extra burden on us to somehow not be a victim. But does anybody have any experiences where they have more of a, maybe more physical aspect, physical barrier that they've had to overcome? Well, that's a tough question. Fair enough. Fair enough. Are you though? Are you?
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
I just had to break the ice. Everybody was
Yeah,
so quiet.
I know. Yeah. Well, I was at the state fair last night, and I just a quick sidebar because it's just made me think of that. But I was at the state fair last night, and of course, there were concealed carry is allowed if you have a permit. And the announcement going over the loudspeaker many times as I was walking up is, even if you have a permit, you are not allowed to bring a concealed carry weapon into this state fair. Please let us have a good time. So, how about from education? I mean, we heard a little bit about the access to education, or maybe the mentorship and support for going on and getting different types of degrees or different programming. What about, are there things that you've wanted to try to get to, and either from transportation or from, I don't want to put, thoughts in anybody's mouths, but any barriers there? Everybody's just teleporting to where they need to go. I can see why. It's beautiful. Yeah, I know. Y'all keep looking at me like you have something to say.
Different than your question posed, but I would say that that would be one of the barriers that I can definitely say that I faced. And it was all about positioning myself for success financially as a student, and then moving forward, because I wasn't afforded a lot of scholarships. So I did have student loans. And I don't think that's something that we educate our young women about, all about positioning yourself for success, all about making sure that you meet deadlines and apply for scholarships, and what are those other resources that are out there to help you pay for college, because we don't think long term. So I have student loan debt from my bachelor's degree, but then I also have 2 master's degrees that I didn't have to pay for, because I learned along the way that there are programs and resources out there that will assist you along the way. So I think it's important that we work with younger youth and make sure that they are aware of those resources. And even though we think that they have those resources available to them, and we think that, yes, you should know to go to the counselor's office. Yes, you should be applying for scholarships before this deadline. If they don't have that mentor, if they don't have individuals that are able to guide them along the way, they still miss out on those opportunities, because a lot of times their parents may not know. There are so many people that their parents are aware that they should be doing those things, but you also have a group of people that their parents don't know. So just making sure that we position individuals for success long term is also important. We know that you should further your education. We know that you should take advantage of those other programs, but how are you planning to pay for that? And then, we have families that they plan long term from birth. Hey, we're going to make sure that we have a way for my child to go to school, but everybody doesn't have access to that. It was through trial and error after I graduated, and they said, you're going to be responsible for paying back these loans. And that's not anything that you're able to say, I can't afford this. So the first thing I did was I knew, and I'm like Ashley, I knew that education was important. My mom said, you're supposed to go to school, but she left so many areas open. I'm not going to tell you what you have to do, but you should further your education. So when I graduated with that bachelor's degree and they sent that letter and they said, in so many months, you're going to be paying, I'm like, let me figure this out. So I went and I got in a master's program because I had a mentor at my school and said, you would be excellent for this. You should consider, getting a graduate assistantship. So I did that. And that's what allowed me to further my education without having the excess debt. And then I figured out, hey, if I work for this employer, they'll pay for me to get this degree. So I learned to take advantage of those opportunities.
I don't even remember what the question was at this point. Kinzel just killed that.
and we're focused in the commission, among other things. So I don't usually need a microphone. We're really focused in the commission on childcare, particularly for single mothers, and particularly focused on where COVID-19 has specific impact on women in Arkansas. So I am going to pick on you a little bit, but I mean, it's so fresh. So how is COVID-19 for you, both in terms of your work life, your personal life? Were you able to work remotely? Did you have to go in every day? Did you have to find childcare, educate your children at home? Talk through some of your experiences with that.
Yeah, so the last question, my thoughts, it was around barriers with education specifically. So I was in a master's program, and I guess at the height of COVID and having a 2-year-old and being pregnant with my second led me to saying, okay, I'm going to hold on just a sec, and I haven't gone back yet. So just thinking about barriers there, and that's something that I certainly desire to do. But I would say that the way that I guess childcare plays out for me personally, I lead talent acquisition at Murphy USA, and we see employees all the time who have issues with childcare. There's an issue with accessibility, an issue with quality childcare and the availability of quality childcare. I personally have had an employee who had to leave the company because the childcare that she had fell through, and she didn't have access to any quality childcare. So she had to leave her job, and she was married. The woman had to leave. So I think that I'm lucky. I have a fantastic relationship with my husband, and he is able to work from home. And so our childcare situation has really leaned on him to allow me to work, every day. But yeah, I think that the need for quality childcare, the availability, the accessibility, it's been huge. That's what's played out, I think, the most.
Yes.
I may end up going all over the place with it. I am the economic developer for Magnolia. And so, first of all, the thing that I've noticed with the COVID-19 situation is that a lot of women have left the workforce, and therefore seem to be probably more so because people have just left completely. So that's not even a count anymore. So whenever it kind of gives a little false hope, I think, on those numbers is what I've noticed. Another thing, touching on another subject, and I have no idea how we would ever be able to overcome this. It's just more of a stigma that I've noticed. Women trying to climb that ladder, and once they, people in the higher positions see you as maybe the secretary, but you're constantly climbing the ladder, and you could get to that 4th level, but they still, consider you to be able to do all these other things. I've seen that a lot in various situations and various jobs. And I worked for a law firm at one point, and a legal assistant, went to paralegal, went to attorney, but she was never seen more than as a legal assistant. That's another barrier that I've seen. The other one is we've talked a lot about, quality childcare. I do know a lot of our daycare workers do not make hardly anything. So why in the world would they ever want to go and do those jobs? And how are we going to get more people to open daycares whenever the jobs are such low pay? Especially right now with everyone, giving you $5,000 sign-on bonuses just like that. And, it's just a real struggle. It's a vicious circle is what it is. But those are just kind of my comments and my thoughts. And there's just a lot. But I will say that in Columbia County, we do have a lot of various industries, a lot of different types of industries. And 2 of our industries are led by women, one being Southern Aluminum and one being Amfuel. There's a CEO at Amfuel, and she is a lady as well. And I'm very proud to be able to announce that for Columbia County.
Thank you. Okay, we just have a few minutes. And so I want to invite those of you who were invited here today to just one last comment. If there's anyone who's one last comment, but then I want to also, because we have the next generation of women in the room and they've been listening to discussions about mentorship and how we look out for one another, how we advocate for each other. And so I'm going to ask one of them. So y'all be thinking who wants to represent your group. But any other comments that you would want the commission or the governor or the legislature to know about in your lives, barriers or challenges you had? I want to turn it over to the next generation. I love it. Okay. Who's going to do it? Okay. Well, there we go. Okay, come forward. First, I want you to, of course, say your name. I want you to explain a little bit about your pageant and your award. And then I want you to share your story.
Hello, my name is Lanice Hemphill. I am currently Miss Sweetheart of Arkansas. My social impact initiative is Ladies Lead, Confidence is Key. And it's all about teaching young women how to run the world. Because I know sometimes we forget that not only men are able to be leaders in society. And so I'm here to be not only an example for women, but also an example for Black women and women who don't have the same body shape, not just in the workforce, but also as a pageant girl. I also went to Miss Arkansas and I was 3rd runner-up in Miss Arkansas. Nothing that I expected. I totally went into going to Miss Arkansas just because, and I left with $11,400 worth of scholarships. So, so not only to be able to be a mentor, but to show young girls that you can do whatever you set your mind to, even if you're just going into it for a hobby. And so I'm so honored to be here, to be around other women who are so successful and have made such an impact on this world. And I think that that is exactly why I started my social impact initiative. I'm a mentor for the Dazzling Divas at the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm also a mentor at SAU. And to be a Black woman and to be able to be a 1st generation woman and to be able to go to school, like you said, you don't always have those finances. My mother passed away when I was 10 and I live with my dad, and he doesn't know much about pageantry. So I was just telling Miss SAU, I said, I asked my dad to help me put this crown on, and he did a horrible job. So, so growing up without a mom, and I also have 4 other sisters, I always want to be able to show them that although you don't have those resources, that you can create them for yourself. Just recently, my little sister went to homecoming and we went to the nail salon. And he said, well, I only have an opening for another hour. And I said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go to Walmart and wax your face myself. And my sister said, well, I didn't know you could do that. When did you do this? And I was like, well, I can do anything. I can do anything. Don't worry. So I think that's what is so important to teach our young women now, is that it doesn't matter if you think you can't do it. It's all the matter of putting your mind towards it and breaking those barriers and overcoming those obstacles.
I mean, I can't think of a better way. I know, very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank all of you for being here today. Just know that your presence is meaningful. And if you didn't get a chance to speak today, or as I said, if you think of something afterwards, those same questions are online at women.arkansas.gov. Very easy to find. welcome you to go in, even if you spoke today. I welcome your participation, go into that survey and enter your experience in there so we can capture it electronically as well. Commissioners, this was really fabulous today. I know, one of the best groups, right? Just best looking, best dressed, all of it, smartest. All right, commissioners that are online, thank you for participating today. Again, ladies, thank you for being here. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. And we'll look forward to sharing the report with you in December. Thanks, everybody. Oh, please take the cookies with you. Yeah, please take the cookies with you.